Hi, everyone. Welcome to the final webinar for this course. I hope you've all had a very productive week so far. I know you've been taking in a lot of information and gaining so much knowledge about what social entrepreneurship is, what it looks like in the real world, the challenges and opportunities that come with it, how you can advance social innovation within your institution, and how to make a pitch and present your idea, and also how to leverage shared value and create win-win situations as you work towards making more health in the world. So module 6 that we're in now is all about reviewing what you've been learning throughout the past few weeks and also planning for your next steps. And who better to help us wrap everything up today than Manuela Pastore, the global lead for Making More Health initiative at Boehringer Ingelheim. Manuela joined BI in 1997, where she focused on digital communications and marketing activities until 2013, when she then became the global lead of Making More Health. Seeing Making More Health as an architect of health focusing on relational entities, she co-creates closely with local stakeholders and NGOs, companies, and social entrepreneurs to implement holistic solutions for making more health happen. Using disruption as a key tool, Manuela has created a social entrepreneurial movement inside BI that leads to system-changing thinking and acting in daily business. Manuela, it's an honor to have you with us today.
So hello to everyone. Thank you so much for this very warm welcome and for giving me again the opportunity to share some experiences. I'm really looking forward not because it's your last session, though this might be a pity, I hope so. But I'm looking forward to this session because it should become your session where hopefully you will get some really, really good pragmatic hints on what you can do and how you can start that. So the intent is not so much to talk about what I have done and my activities. It's much more about you and what you can do. Of course, I will explain this with some examples so that maybe you get a better understanding of it. Yeah, and with this, so let's start. I have prepared some slides, not too many. And yeah, maybe you can just open the very first one. Yeah, as it was announced, my name is Manuela Pastore. I'm the lead of the Making More Health initiative. And in the last 7 years, we have learned a lot. We had really a big journey of making more health. For those who don't know that, it is an initiative run by Boehringer Ingelheim, launched 10 years back in close collaboration with Ashoka. And when we started the journey, we did not know where we would have ended up 10 years later. So this is also something, this is very typical. It is nothing that you plan right at the beginning and then things happen, because you work a lot with human beings. It's not about products or services. It's about human beings at the end, and many, many opportunities that come along the way that you just have to pick up and to think about on how you integrate it. I would like to share with you today some experiences from this work. Here you see on the very first slide some of our activities in India and Kenya with these people on the ground. You see farmers, farmer women. You see some very proud self-help groups in India, very proud because they had the first toilet construction. We have also started a lot of kindergarten buildings, and most of that, beside the infrastructure, also run different trainings with them. But I talk about this in a few seconds. The next slide, please. So, where business meets social. The next one, please. Yes. Now, oh, okay. If you can go back one, just with my picture. On the right, yeah, this is one where my picture comes up. Okay, leave it as it is. Don't worry. The picture at the right, at the top. This is Manuela Pastore in the typical business role. This was me many years at Boehringer Ingelheim, and I have to say, I love this period as well. I mean, I learned so much just trying to understand business well, understanding internet strategies, doing marketing, building networks. Though all these years, I would say, were a good basis also for what I am doing now, because if you want to run a social, let's say, if you want to run a kind of project that combines social and business, you need both. You need to have the networks and the knowledge of the business. And then, of course, you can also start to link the social activities to it. And this is maybe already one of the first advantages you all have, because as far as I know, most of you are in the business. So it's not something where you say, this is something where I maybe missed an opportunity or where I could have done more. Take it really as a very good starting point, all this experience, all these networks. And then in 2013, when I joined this initiative and I started to lead it, I had an opportunity to learn so much more about myself, but also about the work and how we think business. Because what I realized very, very quickly was I have always worked in let's say, our world, the Western world, the high-level business world, with systems and processes in place, and I never questioned them. I never thought about, let's say, different ways on how we can integrate also social entrepreneurial thinking into our daily work. And this is a second point. It is not only that you have now to start your own big social enterprise. This is one option. Another option is, and this is probably the one that for most of you is a more interesting one, because we have also our dependencies and not everyone wants to become now a company owner. You can definitely, wherever you are, you can start to think, how can I link to social entrepreneurial thinking, to the society, and to make this happen? As you all know, for what is very important is, and just to give you some insights, is on one side that you start doing things outside with the communities, that you identify the issue that is close to your heart, but also to integrate others and to involve employees, and to develop also in a way that we call an ecosystem approach. Let me explain this a little bit. So if you think about homeless people, or you think about these farmer women in Kenya, and you talk to them, then you find out it's not just one issue they have. It's not just that maybe they need to, from your perspective, a non-communicable disease screening, or they need some good food, or they need some good water. If you really ask them and you observe how they live during the whole day, you will understand that it is a series of many different challenges these people have. And there are very good reasons why they do certain things as they do it. Very often we tend to say, yeah, but if she had this device or if she had this app, she would be able to do it. This is a little bit naive, let's say, because what we learned is health, if you talk about health, depends a lot if you can pay even a bus ticket to go to the doctor. It's not just about paying the medication. It's also about the way to think that if they go to the doctor, they lose a day of income or a half day of income. And if you just earn $1 or $2, then going to a doctor or having some food to eat is essential. And we should not forget that. The same is also if you want to make more health happen, so you have to make sure that people have also some income, and you have to work on this sector. You can teach about hygiene, but if people have not soap and they cannot pay it, it's very difficult to live what you teach in your hygiene training. So let's say, beside having some basic income, you need, and to make it sustainable for them, so that they have some income and then they can also buy the soap. They need, of course, a training sessions on what to do it, on how to wash hands and on how to use it. But of course, maybe they need also, you have to look into the infrastructures. Are there wash basins? Where do they take the water from? We learned, for example, that they take the water from boreholes, and these boreholes are shared with animals, and they're full of bacteria. So here the big question is, if you think hygiene is about washing, is about keeping hygiene in the house, you have to start also with the infrastructure, with the borehole. And that's why I say from now, what definitely we have learned is wherever you start, and you have to start from one particular thing that is close to your heart. Make sure right at the beginning that you understand well the causes, and that you also look at the whole system and not just what might be very, very visible and tangible to you. Look at the people needs and the people wants. And this is what we do. We say, forget, and let me exaggerate a little bit, but forget your job, forget your company, forget Ashoka, forget the social entrepreneurs first, and look at it with very, very open-minded eyes, and listen to the people, what they tell you, and ask why, to understand before you start to plan. This does not mean that you have to start very, very big, but I will come back to this. It's the opposite. You can start very small, but you have to have the whole system in your mind to be able really to make a change happen in a very sustainable way. But before now, I give you very concrete examples. Let's have a look at you. And please, the next slide. The question I want to ask you is, what do you do? And normally when we ask these questions, people say, oh yeah, I'm a marketer, I work with a company XYZ, I'm not sure, I have studied this and that. What I mean with this question is, what do you really do? I mean, what do you stand for? Yeah, why do you do what you do? What is this big drive? What is this motivation behind? And if you look at the picture with this old lady, it's not that I want to scare you, but for me personally, it was a very interesting question coming up right at the beginning of my social entrepreneurial career, to say, what is it definitely when I'm getting old and I look back to my working life that I want to be able to tell myself, what did I do? I mean, did I produce 100 websites, or did I write 50 articles, or did I really create an impact with that? And I cannot answer what you should tell, or I cannot tell you what you should answer to this question, but for me, it is a key question. So if we go to the next slide, just to be a little bit clearer on that, is, for me, the question, do you care about the world's biggest issues? Or do you just look at your work from inside the walls of your studies, or the sectors, or the functions you're in, or the companies, because this is how normally people do it? I understand it is not too easy to go against the stream sometimes, because the processes are there. The bigger a company is, the more difficult it is. And many times people will also tell you, why do you do that? This is not part of your job description. Yeah. But the question is, or what I realized also with many people, is that they told me, well, I work till 5 o'clock, and then I have founded my own NGO, or I support an NGO, and I dedicate my free time to it. It seems that they had separated the world in two worlds, let's say a social world and a business world. And this is a big trend that we have seen in the 70s of last century. And this starts also in a very, let's say, intangible way. Just to think of some discussions with young people when they tell you, I want to become a kindergarten teacher. Automatically, somehow, we think, this is a great social guy. She or he will dedicate the time to the children, to the society, but probably he will never, or she will never be rich. Meanwhile, if someone says at the age of 18, 19, I do the studies at the Harvard University on marketing, what comes to your mind? this is a guy who will gain a lot of money. And automatically, we also think this guy probably will not be the most social one. And these kind of bias that we have in our minds, we have to overcome. This is what we want to do also with the Making More Health movement, with these sessions, to say, let's build a bridge, because we don't have two worlds, we just have one world. And we have to bring this together. So, but now, how should you start it? This is the next slide. This is probably something that hopefully now can help you a little bit. If you could just go to the next slide, please, and then maybe also directly to the next one. Have you heard ever about the idea killers? We all know and we all kill. What I mean with that is you go with a very nice idea, full of passion, fully convinced that this is a way to go to your boss. And you tell him, well, I have a great idea how we can do AYZ. And what he will say is, oh, very, very interesting, but we don't have this in our year planning. It's too expensive. We have no time for that. Maybe you work a little bit more on it and come back later on. This is impossible. We have never done it. This is nothing you do at a company like Boehringer. Then you have to go to an NGO. Or they will say, you are not expert enough. You need more market research, more facts and figures. This is normally what business is about. Yeah, we deliver fact and figures. So he probably will say, oh, very nice and very human what you have in mind, and maybe it could work, but we need here somehow a proof. But how can be there a proof if it's innovative? What is behind is very often a kind of, let's say, people, also your supervisor is under pressure. They also have to deliver. This is what you have to understand. So you have to develop your strategy. It's a little bit naive again if you just go to your boss and think that every door will open just because your idea is a big one, a great one, one that can change the world. So what you definitely can do, and this is what I will share with you on the next slide. For example, if you communicate or you have an idea on how to connect a societal issue to your business, or how to start just an unusual partnership with an NGO because you believe that something could be in that, look for some peers. I mean, some other colleagues from other functions, people from another department who have another supervisor. And then you present your ideas together in front of 2 or 3 different supervisors. And you will see that the reaction is a different one, because it makes it much harder to say no or directly to push it back. If you have just a one-to-one instead of have a many-to-many, then maybe they will say, okay, you have to look a little bit more into that, but okay, we don't know, try it. Yeah. And this is how you can overcome already the very first hurdle. Because also if in our companies we talk about intrapreneurship, about innovation, about values, these values are definitely there. I don't doubt it. But every innovation means a change. And at the end, change is nothing people really love. Yeah, because it brings a lot of fears. It's a higher risk. So you have to be aware of that, and definitely to come up with a strategy. And this means also to create a win for your supervisors. But I come back to this in a second. But now let's look a little bit here at these clusters. What you, of course, also need to do, you have also to take a risk. You have to leave at least your comfort zone in a reasonable way. No one says now you have to be the big revolutionizer in the company, but use a little bit your intelligence and take a little bit the risks as far as it is possible to you. And it's always you You decide the direction. It's not only the official leaders, not those who call themselves with big title that they are the leaders. There are formal leaders and informal leaders. And wherever you are, you can start to do something. The second one is you can start, for example, also in meetings to ask different questions. To say, hey, I have heard about a social entrepreneur who's also active in this area, and he has a fantastic solution. Shouldn't we contact or connect with him? And already you get one very important element of the social entrepreneurial world into that. You can also ask, is it really necessary that 50 people meet again and again? I mean, sustainability starts also with taking little risk and just asking questions. I think it's very important also that you build relationships, because if you want to realize something that is innovative, you need people who support you. So focus on building relationships. If you develop your ideas, we talked about it, you have to understand very well the communities, whether it's the disabled children, whether it's homeless people, whether it's patients who cannot get access to treatment. Really get in contact with them, visit them, give them a call, and then try to figure it out. And then think beyond the existing processes. Don't just say we have this and this and this available, and therefore I can do this. But think what else could help these people. Start small and then grow big. If you come with plans to your supervisors that are very big, that request a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of people, it will be very, very difficult. What works very well is start more in a hidden way, very small, and then come up with the very first positive results, the tangible positive results. This will convince people to join you, to support you, to help. Sometimes it is also important in our rich business world to go back to frugal innovation. We are all somehow trained to deliver the best exam, the best studies, the best marketing plan, the best agencies that we involve. It's always about the best. But what we are doing here requires something that is very simple, that starts very simple, and where frugal innovation is definitely about good enough solutions and not the best. You can always optimize it, but go with a minimum, not with a maximum.
Absolutely.
And
sorry, Manuela, just to let you know, I know you've got so many great nuggets that you're sharing, and we want to hear all of them. I think we'll give you maybe 5 to 8 more minutes. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah. Then I come to my end. That's fine.
Okay, great.
And do things differently and do different things. And one last point before I share then in the past 2 minutes my own example, maybe on the next slide, which is a basic thought that you have now probably heard about in all the sessions before as well. Making more health or social entrepreneurship is about win-win. It is a shared value approach. And a shared value approach means not just a shared value for the communities or for the NGO partners or for the social entrepreneurs you're working with, but also a win for your supervisors, for your internal stakeholders, for yourself as well. Yeah. And to create this win-win, there are also some main learnings which I have summarized. I will just pick up a few. For example, we tend, when I bring managers to India or to Kenya in our leadership weeks, the very first day we go on the field and say, oh, I have a great idea. I can do this. I can do that. Why haven't you done this training right now? And they want to act. They want to do. What they very often forget is before you do, you have to build trust. So we had one time a group of people, employees, who had to run a training with farmers during a leadership week. And the most successful group was a group who started with a game with the farmers where they just had a kind of bucket and they had to throw in something. And this broke the ice. And afterwards, the farmers told them what kind of questions definitely they had. Meanwhile, the other managers tried with the key messages to give them the best training ever, which is somehow a paradox, because just imagine someone is knocking at your door and says, now I teach you everything, and he starts to give you maybe good insights, but you don't trust him, you won't listen to him. Another thing is, when it comes to you and let's say also your organization, do good things, but make it also visible. No one knows about it if you don't have a strategy on how to communicate about it. It is so important. Others cannot help you if they don't know. And I know sometimes you want to do much more for others, for the communities, with the social entrepreneurs, but the communication to get more supporters, to get more money, to get whatever, is really, really important. And when it comes to your stakeholders, and here I talk about supervisors, investors, make sure that they earn a little bit, or that they get a little bit the ownership. The emotional buy-in is so important. And if they get a little part of your baby and they own it, you will see that they do much, much more. I think you will have the time later on to read through all that. Let me just share in the last minutes an example on how I started in India. So I had a chance to learn about Ashoka, our Making More Health initiative, and I thought something is missing. So I had a chance to spend 10 days in India with an NGO in very, very rural villages, very simple. And I started discussions with the people wherever, with the farmers, with the kindergarten teachers, with the NGO people. And we figured out that it could be a good starting point, because we had the idea to do something with Making More Health concretely in an area, in a geographical area, so far we had not our own projects. So we started to build a very small kindergarten building and in rural areas. This is very, very small. And also to train the kindergarten teachers. Why? Because the kindergarten teachers are the informal health workers in these villages. They go to the houses and visit the patients. If people get vaccination, this is done in the kindergarten. If there are young people who have issues with, let's say, menstruation, normally they go to the kindergarten teacher, not to the doctor. And from there, in this very first building and the very first trainings, I started to invite managers to a leadership week. I had maybe also had a little bit of luck, because I had some sponsors who, without going through the whole HR process, said, okay, we sent you some influencers, some really good managers to stay with you a week. Let's see what's happening. From there, the leadership week started. And you can imagine that these people, when they came back, became my biggest supporters and ambassadors. And some of them also asked, what can I do? So I asked them to set up a health worker training, where several people in a snowball system now go to India and teach our communities about several modules. They started digital training webinars and face-to-face sessions. We started to invite also a colleague who was from a chemist, and he taught the people on how to produce soap. Yeah. And we added also a social entrepreneur who came from this space and said, hey, Torsten, can you maybe work with us in the NGO to set up some hygiene trainings in the schools? And we started also to give them safety trainings, because health is also safety at home, safety on roads, and so on. Next slide. And later on, we brought also animal health experts, because we saw that animals are the income source number one for them. So if they have healthier goats in the villages and healthier chicken, they have income, what we need besides the education, that they really can invest into education of the children, into better nutrition. We built networks with a tribal hospital, with a doctor there. We involved them in the trainings. We gave them the role. Hey, come on, also train them. And the doctors loved it, because also this exposure to international managers and to do things together is fantastic. And we started, of course, also, let's say, with basic business trainings, because if you want to empower homeless people, disabled, whatever, you have to give them also the basic business skills. It's not just about where they maybe have a lack of knowledge, but you have to empower them in a way that they can also come closer to the real world. I mean, to the world where they can also be part of the business. So we are giving now to the same people who learn about health and who produces soap. We tell them on how to package the soap, on how to market it. And you can imagine that this infrastructure helped a lot now under COVID. So we were able, with these trained people, the impact was enormous in India. So we had more than 25,000 people they could teach and produce soap for. However, the last, and here I come back also to the beginning of my presentation, the last big learning was there are so many challenges we have to tackle that we cannot do that alone. Even engaging all our social entrepreneurs and employees, we have to open it up. We need investors from other companies. We need to invite other companies who also come to India, to Kenya, and run their projects, because we will never set up solar systems, or we will never repair biogas containers, you know. So this is where we are going. Where you will go, I don't know. However, I wish you a really good luck, a lot of energy. Don't lose your passion, and don't forget to ask, what do you stand for? With this, I'm at the end, but of course, I'm here for questions. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Manuela. That's such a rich and insightful presentation. And I know our learners will want to go through it in detail, so we'll definitely make it available for them. We already have quite a few questions coming in from them on the platform, and they're watching from all around the world. So we will get to those. But just before we go any further, I just want to ask everyone who's watching live to click on the button at the bottom of the page and answer yes to the survey question to indicate that you're watching live, so that you can get your extra 4 points for that. So coming back to your presentation, Manuela, there's so many great takeaways from it, including, you know, getting out of your comfort zone, building relationships, being visible, shared value, and so on. And these are themes that we've been highlighting throughout the other 5 modules of the course. And even the aspect of shared value, I think you brought in an interesting dynamic of, it's not just sharing the value between the social entrepreneurial organization and the kind of second or third party, but also within the organization itself, there must be value shared amongst the different departments, you know, because there are different dynamics that are at play, right? So it's not just about value for one department, but it's for the organization as a complete entity. So I think that was very interesting. It's something that, again, we've given some assignments to the learners on that. So I think if you're watching, it'll be great to bring that aspect in to say what shared value can there be even within the organization internally. So just also touching on your presentation, you mentioned looking at the whole system, and I think that points to systems change, which is a really great approach to social innovation. Can you briefly tell us what that means to you as someone who has been on the ground, who's been in the trenches? You know, what can that look like for those perhaps who haven't had that same opportunity to look at a system in its entirety?
Let me maybe explain the issue with the people with albinism in Kenya. Normally, maybe many of you don't know, but there is a very high average of people with albinism in East Africa. And these people really have a very hard life. Very often they under the risk of being killed, of getting cut arms and legs or fingers, because some people believe that they can heal HIV/AIDS, or because they think that these people somehow let's say, are bad or can hurt their own families. The people don't have any clue what albinism is. And these people with albinism have a very poor life. Now, very often they are hidden, the mothers don't accept them, they finish up very, very poor, and they are very often raped if they survive. And very often they, the children then stay with them and they don't know what to eat. And at the age of 30, 40, they get skin cancer because they had never had the protection of clothes in the right way, your sun milk and so on. So now what you can do with that, you can say, okay, let's train them, let's give them the awareness, what they can do, the clothes they have to put. Maybe you also can collect donations and give them sun milk. But what we want to do together with our local NGO and social entrepreneur partners is we want to change the perception in the society, and we want to make them, let's say, also leaders for others, for the normal people. And you can imagine when we had this COVID, or we have a COVID crisis, I know, but our albinism community, which is 120 families in a city called Wekwete, they produced an only organization soap and distributed it to these taxi drivers, to the boda drivers on motorcycles in the town. And they taught about hygiene and how to wash hands. And you can imagine that then the TV station came when they gave it to the boda drivers. And it was a big, these people are now helping us? And the perception changed. So they didn't see now the evil part in the people with albinism, but they understood that these are the big heroes of the moment. And this has definitely changed the perception, not all over Kenya. This is hopefully what we can do in the next years. But at least in this big town and in the region where they are now very, very often contacted for basic health issues, for hygiene issues, for soap. And this makes a big difference. And this is what I say, this is a system change. It's not just to tackle the issue, but to change here the perception, the whole way on how people look at it and include them. It's about diversity inclusion in this case as well, a lot. Yeah, and not just to accept them, but to accept them fully as a member of a society like you and me, with all opportunities.
Right. I really like the aspect of systems change, because it is really about changing the whole narrative, and not just, being biased in how you see issues, but just looking at it as a whole problem, So just moving on to some of the questions we have from our learners. The first one is from Georgina Oliver. And her question is, what do you think about emotional intelligence in the corporate sector? Was it important for you in achieving your goals?
Of course. I think emotional intelligence is also somehow a buzzword. Yeah. But I haven't met many managers where I would say they had no emotional intelligence. It's just that somehow they separated it from they are still separating it from the normal business life, because it is not a really high value when it comes to your careers. But many of these managers, and especially not only the youngest, where we know that they are change makers, but also those on, let's say, from 40, 45 years onwards. These are the biggest change makers. And it was just a little bit hidden, this kind of emotional intelligence, or the idea that you can also have it in the business and use it. So we have built, for example, a framework with this Back to the Future, encouraging the people to do that. And my personal conviction is that the emotional intelligence, if you can just open it up from your managers, with the power, with the networks, with the money, with the budget these people have, they can really, really be so powerful in supporting your project. So you should definitely look at it. It's not that it's not there. Very often people, I don't know, maybe they are scared to show it. They feel maybe this is not good for my careers, and therefore they don't show that. Yeah. But it's people like everywhere. I mean, in society, you have some with more, some with less, but I don't see the big difference. Besides the fact that maybe business is limiting it, the structures, these unsaid, never mentioned. Oh, in business you have to be strong and based on facts and figures only, and this is the point.
Yeah, that's good. So just coming back to the work that BI is doing specifically, the learners that are watching today have been looking at some of the different co-creation projects that BI is championing with Ashoka, such as CL Blue and Cow Tribe. So clearly this goes beyond just traditional corporate social responsibility. So why is BI at the corporate level interested in these kind of co-creation projects? What is really in it for the business?
There is a win for the business as well, and which is fine. Yeah. So we talk about shared value. So shared value should be for everyone, for Boehringer as a company, for Boehringer functions, for Boehringer departments, for you as an employee. And if we talk now about Boehringer as a company, what definitely we do in Kenya and in India is to prepare markets where there are no markets. Yeah, let me describe it in this way. If we talk in business about markets, normally we talk about those parts, especially in the emerging countries, where people have the money to pay. So about hospitals in the cities, we talk about rich, big farmers, yeah, corporations who might have the possibility to buy also animal health medication, but we never talk about, and this is 2/3 in India, we never talk about the areas where people live close to the poverty line. They are not interesting for us because they will never buy the medication or the products or the services as it is for now. Because if you earn $2 or $3, let's say, a day, and you have 2 cows, it's not really the interesting part. What we say is, let's have a look at it. Let's see if they are together in self-help groups, in corporations, and we empower them in many different ways with knowledge on farming, but also life skills, with infrastructures, by helping them to build the booths, let's say. Yeah, just take a marketplace as an idea around a church or whatever. You need some booths, you need to have a variety of different products they can offer. So what we try to do is to empower them at a level that they can empower themselves and at least start to participate in a market, which does not mean that they would buy our products, at least not every product. And to be also very open, I mentioned that, and this is also why Cow Tribe is, for example, for us very exciting. In poor regions, animals are the income source number one. And if animals are healthy and you can grow more animals, automatically your income raises. So making sure that you bring animal health into these areas means that this is the number one key to grow the market or to build a market. With the idea that they also decide on how to build it further. It's not us to build a market, it's us to help them to prepare to build their own markets. And therefore, for example, Cow Tribe is very interesting to Boehringer, beside the fact that it is a very high talent attraction, yeah, to have such a program. And beside the fact that also for the communication, the reputation, it has a certain role.
So having said that, Manuela, for other organizations that are out there and they're looking at what BI is doing and hoping to play a role in the ecosystem of health and innovation in similar ways as these co-creation projects, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned so far regarding these projects?
I have to say there's a very high interest from competitors on what we are doing. They are very interested to learn more. What exactly is this partnership with Ashoka and why social entrepreneurs? We have this interest, by the way, not just from other businesses and companies, but also by NGOs. Yeah, so we have the same issues also in the NGO world. You have very traditional players who have their own traditional systems and processes, and they look at you and they say, what is this? And then maybe you have, and I would say this is a 50%, and then maybe you have a 20-30%, and they come back and they ask you, yeah, but what is it for? I mean, there are indirect benefits for the company, like preparing a market, or this is also now for the corporate social responsibility. And we say, yes, it is also for the corporate social responsibility. And then we say it's also for talent attraction. Then they get interested in that. Or like also NGOs that we know we have to change something. The processes of the past are not working well anymore. The world is changing, but we don't know what to do. And then you have maybe a 10% and they say, oh, maybe we can do together something with you. And this is a group where now we will focus on in the future much more, where we have started already in the NGO world. Yeah, and here I include also, it's not just started, we do it with the social entrepreneurs. Yeah, which I don't see it only in the social world. That's why I just mentioned it now. But I think generally the trend to think differently, the need to think differently for traditional businesses is very high. And many feel it. They look for solutions. They invest a lot in technology, technical innovation only. They have not discovered so much the social innovation as a big driver. But I would say year by year, and especially also with the launch of the SDGs, we have really big push to we see that things are changing, and more will buy in and will be interested and get interested into that. So very interesting area. So also for yourself, it's not just that if you do something, you do it because you love it or you like it or because you do it for your business. I think it is something like when the internet revolution came up. So we have a kind of social revolution at the moment, and you are in the very first phase of that. So let's see.
Yeah. All right. So we want to move, just to come back into the internal dynamics of social innovation and what's happening at BI. So we have a couple of questions coming from participants. One is from Gerardo, who's a BI employee in Mexico. And he's asking, what is the main strategy of BI to create a culture of social innovation and social entrepreneurship within employees? Can you share tips that other big companies could also implement to build this culture? So I'll also just link the second question because I think your responses may be integrated there. The other one is how do you encourage mid-management to bet on or to invest in your entrepreneurial idea? Can you share ideas on how to work with a team that is not so supportive?
Yeah. This is a very good topic because when we started, the idea was you have to communicate more about it. Yeah, or the top management has to tell the middle managers what to do. I would say this is right. I mean, it's always good if the top management engages, yeah, and also if you communicate as much as you can. But the real success of this kind of movement that we were able to initiate came with the leadership weeks. And I'm not saying you now have to build your own leadership weeks. I just have to say you have to find something where a mass of people, ideally influencers of the company, get an experience of your project, for example, automatically. And this is a nice thing when it comes to social entrepreneurship, because you have also an emotional buy-in. It's not just slides or facts or figures, or people love it. And if you get an influencer who is convinced and love it, he will become automatically an ambassador. So this is what happened also with when these participants of the leadership week came back. And they had big teams. They started to present in the teams. They reported back to the higher management level. Wow, here we have really a very interesting, disruptive experience. And this is when HR, for example, said, oh, this is great. We just wanted to reorganize ourselves. Let's make out of it a global talent management program, 1 out of 4. And the same also happened to AR. So we were already present just because some very high influencers were on our side. We were able to integrate it then also in the existing processes. Mm-hmm. So what I can just say is, try to find your ambassadors, your project ambassadors, your Making More Health ambassadors. Mm-hmm. The pressure and the information and the passion they develop It takes 2, 3, 4 years. It's nothing that happens right from now. But we see what we started in 2014, 15, in the last 2, 3 years is growing potentially, exponentially, and this is very interesting. And then you have, of course, also to learn that you cannot control anything anymore, because we have also to rethink our structures. I cannot say now we have a Making More Health department and we have a global head and we have another global head and we have a team and they decide and everything. And to Ashoka, we have also a team, and this core team now together with us will decide on everything. But we have also to hand over, and we have to build, we have to trust some people that what they do it under the spirit of Making More Health. And this will change the whole system of collaboration as well. And therefore you need passion. Without passion, if you are not able to bring passion to the middle management, it will be difficult.
Absolutely. Manuela, just to let you know, we have about 100 participants watching live, and we've had about 50 questions on the platform, but we definitely will not have time to go through all of them, unfortunately. But I think there's such a high level of interest in this topic. So I hope the conversation will carry on the platform as well with the participants. One of the questions that is coming up, though, is, living in these challenging times that we're all in, this pandemic has brought some opportunities for those that want to create impact, but it's also bringing challenges in terms of mobility, traveling, not having access to resources, and so on. So what can corporate executives do even during this pandemic to make more health? Do you have any tips on that?
Yes. Generally, from a global perspective, we are now active in 2 big areas, in India and Kenya. And beside that, you have also met some social enterprises. Now, not all the 100 people can go to one social enterprise and try to help, especially as you cannot travel. You can maybe give them a call, but a social enterprise will also say, oh, wait a moment. I really appreciate, but I cannot handle that. What I can suggest for people at Boehringer is, we have several topics like the work with the albinos. We have a work with the farmers. We have this income generation stream where people need basic business skills. It would be fantastic if you can form some groups and maybe we can get in contact, and I would just connect you and give you some ideas on how, for example, you can build some first webinars. We are running a huge digital training and also device distribution at the moment, so that these webinars can work, where we include social entrepreneurs, but also our NGO leaders. So you could build somehow on the infrastructure we have. But at the same time, you don't have to travel to India, to Kenya, not even with webinars. Just go out, have a look at your town, have a look at the society around. Maybe there is the topic of isolation, of aging, of mental health. And why don't you start from there? And then you think, let me see, for example, there are homeless people, a children's home or whatever. Let me also check a little bit which Ashoka fellow is also into that. Which ideas did he have? Can I maybe start something with some employees to support an existing NGO or institution? Try to build on an infrastructure. It is very difficult generally, but even more now, to build your own infrastructures first. But every NGO, every social enterprise has already infrastructures. And I'm pretty sure that they are always looking for volunteers, and you can become a very traditional volunteer, but you can bring in also the social entrepreneurial spirit and the connections you have learned about this Ashoka network. You can bring it, the ideas, you can bring it to them, and you can also learn from the social entrepreneur and then become the trainer for the others. The social entrepreneur will not travel around the world now to make it happen everywhere.
Those are really great ideas, and I think very actionable as well. So I think if those that are asking these questions can take something from there and start taking baby steps, I think you'll find that there are many things that you can actually achieve even during this pandemic. Time has really run away from us. But Manuela, I just wanted to find out if you have any last words of advice for our learners, those at BI and those who are also in other organizations as well around the world.
Yeah, first of all, I encourage you definitely to go to this employee platform, because I will have also look at it, and I will have a look at together with the Ashoka team and try to answer some of the questions as far as possible, so that hopefully you get the more energy even to go ahead. And then I definitely would like to tell you it's worth to go this path and to start a new journey in your life. It's not just for your business, it's not just for the community, but it's mostly also for yourself. There are so many miracles happening, yeah, where you are looking for a solution and then something is happening. And I had a professor, I was looking for an income generation idea in India, that I wanted to connect with a game. And just imagine, one day my telephone rang and a professor from a gamification department of a university in Ahmedabad gave me a call, and I have never been in contact with him. And he said, and can I meet you? Yeah, okay. And then I shared many things, and he said, oh yeah, I have a student, they have to work out an idea of a game, they will do it for you for free. Things like that are happening. I don't know what it is, if it's a destiny or if it's the passion. I just want to tell you, it's worth doing it. It's not easy. Sometimes it's very frustrating. You will always get against let's say, you will see the borders people have in their bias, in the business, the processes that are not there, the ways of how normally, for example, we pay things. I cannot do them because for €5 no one will do an invoice at BI, yeah, because they say this is not worth it, we even look at it. But if you work with emerging, with very poor people, €7 is a lot. And yeah, but yeah, test it, find out if it's the right thing. Don't, yeah, build your communities, and I hope that we will meet again, wherever it is, maybe in one of the activities Making More Health and Ashoka is doing, maybe because we meet at a conference. However, I would be also very interesting to learn about your stories, to learn from you, and maybe we connect, who knows? Yeah, yes. So all the best.
Fantastic, such an excellent takeaway. And for me, I think the key one is, it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely worth it. So, Manuela, we're so inspired by the work that you're doing through BI and the work that the social entrepreneurs that you're working with are also doing. So we want to thank you for that work and to thank you for taking the time to join us today as our final guest speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
So for the rest of you that are watching, I strongly recommend that you catch up with all the readings and assignments if you haven't done so already. But of course, don't panic, because the course platform remains open for another month until December 6th. So you still do have a little bit more time to complete all the modules and finally earn your certificate. You should expect to receive your certificate by late January 2021 once you've finished all the work. If you have any questions or concerns about that, you can always reach out to the course team as usual. And just a reminder for BI employees, as Manuela mentioned, the group that has been created for you will also remain open until December 6th. But we do encourage you to exchange contacts anyway, so that you can keep the conversations going, even offline. And finally, we will send out a final survey about your experience on the course and how you found it, because this will help us to fine-tune the course and make it even better for future participants. So we'd really appreciate getting your responses to that survey before December 6th. Make sure you read the section on Module 6 that tells you about some of the next steps that you can take and about the resources that are available to you. And also, of course, take time to share your reflections in the discussion forums, as you have been. And I think most of them have been so insightful, even for me as well, and for the rest of the course team. I think it's been very eye-opening to hear some of your own experiences and reflections. So continue to connect with other learners as well, even beyond this course platform. So that's all from me and the rest of the course team. Well done for the outstanding effort that you've been putting into the course so far. We wish you all the very best going forward. Goodbye.